Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 40 of 2024. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Oddsbreakers. Follow us on social media / the Oddsbreakers. This episode is being brought to you by BetMGM. For an up to $1,500 sign-up bonus, please visit theoddsbreakers.com. Click on Bet Now. Terms, conditions, and location apply. If you'd like to support the Oddsbreakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com. Click shop and become a member. Pick any for winning cappers. Get the premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. And if nothing else, please visit the Oddsbreakers and become a free Picks and Telegram subscriber. Well, I hope you all had a great Memorial weekend. I was up in Flagstaff, still playing some NBA and some baseball. NBA's actually picked back up, won my last two plays. Had to bet the Pacers plus 7.5, even though they lost game 4. I figured, they should cover that game. The whole gentleman's sweep thing is a real thing. They let the team that's about to get swept back into it, or they just kind of play out of their minds. Same things with the Timberwolves. So I was happy about that. Baseball, kind of up and down, but catching our groove here. I've been going a lot of 1-1 in baseball, but being that it's been plus money, I'm pretty happy with that. If you ever want any of our baseball plays or packages, you can just get them, obviously, at theoddsbreakers.com, or you can do a monthly package because we do a lot of UFC, and we're going to talk some UFC 302 on this podcast at the end of the show, but we're going to bring on a wonderful guest for you before that, Mr. Vegas Matty from footballcontest.com, because the Circa just announced their $16 million guarantee for the 2024 season. Just a massive amount of money Derek Stevens is guaranteeing to pay out for the new 2024 football season. And we're also going to talk about how we are doing Christmas and how we are talking about doing Thanksgiving for the Survivor contest with Vegas Matty. But before Matty comes on, we always talk about football, and we're going to get into the NFC South to continue on in our NFL football preview. So without further ado, let's get into our 2024 NFC South season win totals sports betting preview right now. So the NFC South, like I said last year, it was a game of Yahtzee. I mentioned it last year. I took a shot with Atlanta to make the playoffs, a little bit less on winning the division. Had great numbers, plus numbers on the over. Everything ended up with massive line value, but the Falcons had to just choke. Just terrible coach with Arthur Smith, terrible quarterbacking with Desmond Ridder. Just did not turn out, even though they had a super easy schedule. But that was one of the more common bets, is the Falcons make the playoffs. But the other common bet was the Saints to win the division, and they couldn't even do that. Neither happened because the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield stole the show. This year, the Falcons decided to get a quarterback and a new coach, which propelled them to be the favorites in this division. So now the Falcons are the favorites. I'm not entirely convinced, though. The NFC South plays the NFC East and the AFC West for their 2024 schedules. I would call that pretty easy at the bottom, as the bottom of these AFC East teams, Washington and New York Giants, and the AFC West, Denver and the Raiders, and you still have the Chargers, which we don't know how good they'll do the first year with Harbaugh yet, is some pretty bad teams. And so it really, really benefited the NFC South. As a matter of fact, the NFC South, even though they're one of the worst divisions, they all have some of the easiest schedules in football, being that they also get to play each other. So how wonderful it is to be an NFC South team, at least try to make the playoffs. But, this conference stunk really last year. It had the worst team in the all of NFL football. So we'll see how this conference fares after doing this preview. So let's dig right in, starting with the divisional futures. All at DraftKings, the Falcons, minus 105 to win the division. So now they're actually laying juice to win the division. The Buccaneers plus 295 to win the division. The Saints plus 330 and the Panthers plus 1,100. Starting out with the top team from last year, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Vegas win total is 8.5, juice to the under -150. 2023 wins was 9. Their Pythagorean win total was 8.71. Their schedule this year is looked at as medium because they get at-large games at Detroit versus Baltimore and against San Francisco at home as well versus San Francisco. But still, what a brutal schedule for the NFC South. Schedule last year, medium easy. Key losses, offensive coordinator Dave Canales, edge rusher Shaquille Barrett, linebacker Devin White, guard Nick Leverett, and strong safety Ryan Neal has not been signed. Key additions, safety Jordan Whitehead and guard Ben Bredson. Key draft picks, tackle Graham Barton, edge Chris Braswell, safety Tyke Smith, and wide receiver Jalen McMillan. Summary. I never had a ton of respect for Todd Bowles until last year. The team with the worst odds to win the division was the Buccaneers, and they pulled it off at 8-1. Not only that, they smacked the Eagles right in the mouth during their first playoff game. Baker Mayfield has proven that he can start in the NFL. Having guys like Mike Evans and Cade Otton at tight end certainly helped. Mike Evans at wide receiver, obviously. Even after saying all this, this team was lucky, because you have to face it, that they were just really average last year. And they just happened to play in a weak division. They did one good thing and one bad thing on both sides of the ball. On offense, they ranked 8th in pass EPA. Baker did well, but only 27th in rush EPA. On defense, nose tackle Vita Vea was injured for a spell, but when he came back, the rush defense was fantastic. They finished at 5th in rush EPA. Might have been higher if he was healthy all season, but against the pass, they only ranked 22nd in pass EPA. So that's saying something. For the 2024 season, the Bucs are once again fortunate to be in the NFC South. They do get the first place at large games, though, so that's going to be what might separate them from the division winner if it's not them next year. I like how this team did shed some older players, but they're still somewhat old. Levante David, Jordan Whitehead's there. There's just still some older players that just, might be in it for more of a paycheck at this moment. Some of them even won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. The biggest loss is offensive coordinator Dave Canales. Liam Cohen replaces Canales. He's got some good experience with the LA Rams under Sean McVay, but just a lot of wait and see here with the Buccaneers again. I don't want to mess with them really. I'd rather bet them to make the playoffs or win the division though instead of the win total at 8.5. So you're getting a lot of plus money to make the playoffs, plus 145, plus 300 to win the division. So that's where I'm at. Probably not even going to make a play on them. My Vegas win total, my power rated, and my calculated win total right now is 8.86 wins. No play, but like I said, maybe I'll have some interest later. Tampa Bay's power rating is the best in the division, but only 1 point above 0. So a little bit above average for Tampa Bay. Number 2, the Atlanta Falcons. Vegas win total 9.5, juice to the under -135. 2023 wins was 7. Pythagorean wins were 7.67. Schedule was easy, or it will be easy this year. At-large games versus Pittsburgh, versus Seattle, and at Minnesota. The schedule last year was very easy, and they still only had 7 wins. Key losses, coach Arthur Smith, tight end Jonnu Smith, running back Cordero Patterson, edge Bud Dupree, cornerback Jeff Okudah, center Matt Hennessy, defensive end not signed yet Calais Campbell, he's probably toast, and key additions, coach Raheem Morris, offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, quarterback Kirk Cousins, defensive end Darnell Mooney, tight end Charlie Warner, key draft picks, quarterback Michael Penix, defensive line Rook Orokoro, and a bunch of prayers. Summary, it's hard not to be just pissed off with this team. When you had all that line value and they look like they're going to take the step forward, they just couldn't even do it in the worst division in football. They had it. They just had everything going for them, but just this offense was terrible. A lot of dinking and dunking. And now they might have taken care of their quarterback because they signed Kirk Cousins for $180 million, and they brought in a new coach and Raheem Morris. But am I confident? No, not really. You got Kirk Cousins coming off the injury. Raheem Morris failed as a coach, I believe, at Tampa Bay a while ago. And now they got another guy from the Sean McVay tree, and Zach Robinson comes as offensive coordinator. I got to get a job under Sean McVay, because if you want to become a future head coach or a future offensive coordinator, it sounds like the Sean McVay tree is blooming. But anyways, it's hard to predict how this team's going to do with all these changes. Like I said about the dinking and dunking, that worked in a bad division, but when teams stack the box, it really messed them up. They were 25th in pass EPA in this bad division, but they could not run the ball, even with draft pick Bijan Robinson last year. So that says something. Defenses figured out how to stack the box. Now they had that boneheaded draft pick in Michael Penix when they could have had the pick of the litter at cornerback to fix that pass defense or even a pass rusher. And then they go ahead and pick Michael Penix, that's 24 years old. I mean, if Kirk Cousins plays out his contract, he's going to be like 28. It just makes no sense because they're both coming from different places. It was different with the Packers when they already had Rodgers when they drafted a quarterback. They already had Favre when they drafted Rodgers. So you can't make that comparison. It's confusing to the locker room. It's just weird. Why draft an older guy when you just signed someone? I mean, if you're going for it, you're going for it. You got to improve that defense. I don't like it, but hey, this massively easy schedule that is just so much easier than everybody else might just be able to muster up the 9 wins. It's just, you want to hate them for what they did, but I think they could have done a lot better. But 9.84 wins is my number just because their schedule is that easy. So 9.84, I have just a small lean to the over. I'm not betting it. Atlanta's power rating is below average at minus 0.5. No action for me. Number 3, the New Orleans Saints. Vegas win total 7.5. Juice towards the over minus 120. 2023 wins was 9. Pythagorean wins was 10. Schedule's medium, easy. At-large games versus Cleveland versus the LA Rams and at Green Bay. Schedule last year was easy. Key losses, offense coordinator Pete Carmichael Jr., defensive end Malcolm Roach, quarterback Jameis Winston, guard Andreas Pete, cornerback Lonnie Johnson, defensive tackle P.J. Mustapha, cornerback Isaac Yadam, and linebacker Zach Bond. Key additions, offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, defensive end Chase Young, wide receiver Dedrick Wilson, inside linebacker Willie Gay, tackle Oli Udoh, and guard Lucas Patrick. Key draft picks, tackle Talise Fuaga, cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, quarterback Spencer Rattler from South Carolina, and linebacker Jalen Ford. Summary. The Saints were just another team that had some underachievers last year. They somehow missed the playoffs, yet won 9 games. They benefited again from a super easy schedule in this division, but they faltered when they played a team with the pulse. I do like that they finished the season winning 4 out of the 5 games. For 2024, this team had a pretty easy schedule minus the net rest disadvantage of minus 10 days. Perhaps the biggest change for this team was to fire their offensive coordinator, Pete Carmichael Jr., who's been with the team for 18 years. Well, he went crawling back to Sean Payton in Denver as an offensive assistant. Bringing in Clint Kubiak might be an improvement, especially since he might have learned something last year from being in Kyle Shanahan's system as a passing game coordinator, so that's possible. But I feel like a broken record. Their win total 7.5 should be very achievable, but the biggest worry continues to be the quarterback position with Derek Carr. But maybe he's at least good enough to get them into the playoffs in a very weak division. I hate to say it, but I'm actually going over with the Saints. Over 7.5 wins, laid at minus 120. Like I said, their Pythag was 10. They underachieved at 9 wins. I'll lay it here. My number is 9 for this year. Their power rating is going to be at straight 0 as an average team. Make the play for over 7.5 at minus 120 for 1 star.
This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game.
Finally, at last and certainly least, the Carolina Panthers. And their Vegas win total is 5.5, juice to the over at minus 115. 2023 wins, 2. Pythagorean wins, 3.92. Schedule. Medium this year. At large versus Cincinnati, at Chicago, and versus Arizona. If you think about that, it's not so good. Because you got to play Joe Burrow, Cincinnati, not Cincinnati without one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You got Chicago, who is kind of loaded now and talented quarterback, and you have Arizona with Kyler Murray. Schedule last year, medium easy. Key losses, Coach Frank Reich, but that was kind of halfway through the season. Defensive end Brian Burns, linebacker Frankie Louvu, defensive end Yetur Gross-Matos, cornerback Shaquille Griffin, safety Jeremy Chin, wide receiver G.J. Chark, and cornerback C.J. Henderson. Key additions, Coach Dave Canales. He lands in Carolina. Offensive coordinator Brad Idzik, guard Robert Hunt, guard Damian Lewis, defensive end Ashawn Robinson, defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, inside linebacker Josie Jewell, defensive end DJ Woonham, cornerback Dane Jackson, tackle Yash Nijman, and safety Jordan Fuller. Key draft picks, wide receiver Xavier Liggett, running back Jonathan Brooks, linebacker Trevin Wallace, and tight end Jatavian Sanders. Summary. Thanks to the Carolina Panthers, the Falcons are not the most embarrassing franchise of 2023. I would like to say that there's a lot of changes going on in this organization, but constant changes seem to be the norm for this team. I mean, they change all the time. Let's face it. The outlook for the Panthers goes through the quarterback Bryce Young and the new coaching staff. They turned over a ton of players, and they also made some very dumb drafting and free agent decisions. The Brian Burns trade was god-awful. He was like the only winner in this team, and they got nothing for him. I would think that there was something like bad locker room type situation with Burns or something, but I don't know. I don't understand it. It's like you can rebuild a team with keeping a stud, The 2 draft picks of a wide receiver and a running back was also highly questionable. That's not how you rebuild a team. You start with the trenches. The Panthers had plenty of opportunity to start drafting trenches, and instead they went to the skill positions. I mean, if there's anything good to say for this team, they weren't quite as bad as their 2-win record. They're more of a 4-win type team, but the Panthers ranked 29th in offensive EPA, 26th on the defense. They could not stop the run, but they did rank 17th in defensive pass EPA. But this is still a transitional year again. And I just can't imagine them winning many games. I mean, my number came out to 3.96 this year. So it's just like, that's really close to the Pythagorean win total. So, I mean, I think they're a 4-win team, and maybe they luck out and win a couple more, and that's why their win total's at 5.5. I really don't want to go under a 5.5 in a 17-game NFL season, especially in an easy division, but their power rating is one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL. Minus 8.5 points worse than the average team to start this season. That's not good. I actually lean under the 5.5 for their wins, but either way, I'm going to leave it alone. We'll stick with our best bet with the Saints over 7.5 wins, and you can get that right now at minus 120. Without further ado, let's bring in our wonderful guest, Mr. Vegas Matty from footballcontest.com. Now I'm very excited to bring back one of the best, if not the best, proxy in all of Vegas, in Mr. Vegas Matty from footballcontest.com. You can follow Matty on Twitter at Vegas_Matty at footballcontest.com. Matty, looks like we have a lot going on. Already some key announcements in the big circuit contests.
Yeah, Derek Stevens had the big announcement last week. Those guarantees are up to $16 million, I believe now. So $10 million for a Circus Survivor, up from $8 a year ago. And then they're still trying to break through with the million to get to that $6 million mark. I had trouble the last couple of years. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can get, I think last year was 5.3 million, something like that. So they got to work hard to get those guys in there to do the pick 5 contest. But I don't think they're going to have any trouble hitting the 10 million in the Survivor.
Oh, I know the Survivor shot up last year. They did a fantastic job. What are the guarantees for the millions then? Is it has that been upped or is that the same?
No, it's the same. Like I said, yeah, it's been 6 million the last couple of years. So they're just set on it, trying to get it up to that number. So there's no overlay. So anybody who participated the last couple of years got that overlay. But yeah, it's The million is the bigger concern for Derek to try and avoid coming out of pocket. And there's still a max of 5 entries per person for that, 10 for the survivor. So the million is really where they need to try to get those numbers up.
Oh, definitely. And for any new listeners that we have, could you let them know what you guys do over at footballcontest.com?
Yeah, so really, footballcontest.com is an informational website. We've got information on all of the biggest football contests in Las Vegas, including the Circa Million, Circa Survivor, and the Super Contest. Once you find out the information and you want to schedule a trip out to Vegas, that's the next step, and you want to find a reliable proxy. And my partner Tony and I, we've been doing this we've been the leading proxy for the last 15 years in Las Vegas. We're going to year number 16. And you want to reach out to us and schedule an appointment to get signed up, because we do need to be there when you sign up. You do also need to be in person to sign up for the contest. And that's another thing. A lot of people try to reach out to us and say, hey, can you sign up for the contest for us? And that's not in the cards. You need to be able to physically sign up at one of the Circa sports books in the state of Nevada, whether it's the Tuscany, the downtown properties, Circa Resort and Casino, the D, and they just opened up one at the Silverton Casino in Las Vegas as well. And then you got the property up in Sparks. So you've got a variety of different options to sign up. But once you sign up, you need to be able to have somebody put the picks in for you if you are out of state and not able to do it yourself.
Absolutely. And this is where you guys come in. Well, it's not the worst thing to go to Vegas, because Derek Stevens has a pretty good show over at the Circa. And obviously you have some other contests as well at the Westgate. And there's also a few other small contests you guys do as well. So can you talk a little bit about what's available to people coming out there from a football contest perspective?
Yeah, we're still waiting to see kind of what the college landscape is going to be like this year. William Hill had done a college football contest in the past. They did not have it last year. Still not sure if they're going to bring that back this year. The Golden Nugget has a combo contest that covers college football and the NFL, and that's a 7-pick-a-week contest. I believe they're going to start their signups up around 4th of July. So anybody coming into town that wants to get in on that one, that's when signups will begin for that one. The Super Contest is kind of the granddaddy of them all, as I say. Was really the first big Pick 5 contest. They had a huge prize pool. They awarded $1 million winners way back in the day, pre-COVID, when they were able to get their entry numbers up over 3,000. Now, since Circa Millions kind of jumped in the scene, their numbers have gone down, just because a lot of people pick one or the other. I like to say, might as well do both, because they both have their advantages. The Super Contest has 11 in-season contests, so they pay you out after every 3 weeks, every 6 weeks, every 9 weeks, which is pretty awesome. And then the Circa Million has the big quarterly prizes that are worth $300,000 every quarter, including the $25,000 booby prize for finishing last every quarter. They do also award the $100,000 booby prize at the end of the season for the entrant with the lowest amount of wins.
Yeah, the booby prize is kind of interesting. It's so terrible. You can always go for that now. Maybe you think you're out of it by week 3 anyway. You just do the booby prize for the first 4 weeks, and then you wait the next 4 weeks. You can still try to get that second quadrant, correct?
Yep. A lot of people, after the first week, they kind of see how their entries are going. If they get off to a rough start, maybe 1-4, 0-5, you've got something to play for right off the bat, regardless. So that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, why don't you tell us about any changes that's happening with the circuit this year for the Millions and the Survivor?
What was that?
The changes for the Millions and Survivor. There's a couple small ones, maybe Christmas week. What's going on with any changes?
Yeah, I mean, really the big difference this year is just that Christmas falls on a Wednesday, and you don't typically get a Wednesday football game. But with the Circa Million, that those Christmas games are going to fall as part of that week. So instead of kicking off the week on Thursday, it'll kick off the week on Wednesday. Lines will be available on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. And so that'll be a key difference there. And then with the Survivor, the contest weeks that are added on, you have the 18 weeks, plus you've got Thanksgiving and Good Friday as a separate week. So you got to save teams that are playing one of those games. And then also you need to save teams that are going to play either on Christmas Day or the 26th, which is the Thursday. So you got to pick one of those teams as well. So it's kind of gets a little dicey. A lot of people like to map out all their whole season and see what happens. You want to hold one of those good teams for each of those bonus weeks. But also you want to get to that point too. So you don't want to have to be worry about saving too much. You want to have at least some quality teams, but then again, you have some teams that end up being worse than they are. You think they're going to be going in the season. So we'll just kind of see what happens. But those are kind of just the different schedule is just with Christmas falling on a Wednesday this year.
Well, that's what makes it so interesting, man. It's like you're worried that you're going to not be able to use it, but they might lose the quarterback or something, right? And all of a sudden later in the season, you're like, geez, they just lost the quarterback. Now I wish I did save them. Some ungodly happened from the homes or something throughout the year. That's Friday, actually, which is interesting, of Thanksgiving week. This year for Christmas, I believe there's like 2 games instead of 3. So they had to wrap the Thursday game in, which
correct, yeah.
Was a idea by
yeah, and then the Good Friday game too. That's another added game that didn't have in years. We had it last year. I think that was the first year they had it, but that's also tied into Thanksgiving. So you've got Thanksgiving games and the Good Friday game as part of a week as well. So it's crazy. I mean, just to get to that point, if you're alive around Thanksgiving time, that's normally where you've got maybe it's barely double digits with the number of entries left at that point. Maybe 10, like you might have 20 people alive at that point. And then Christmas, you're lucky to have, 8 or 9 entries left at that point, because there's only another week or 2 left in the season. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But again, it's all about mapping it out. I know they sell that in the gift shop over at Circa. You can get get the whole grid and map out your whole season right there.
Yeah, 100%. You get it all set up for you, and sometimes there's situations where there's more money that's guaranteed by Derek Stevens than actually comes in. Why don't you tell people about what happens with overlays and how often they've been happening recently?
Well, the overlay with the Survivor, there hasn't really been one. I don't think I'm trying to think if there ever was one, just because the Survivor is such a popular contest, and they do allow each person to sign up 10 entries. It hasn't been an issue. The million's another story, just because there's only so many ways you can dice up 5 different picks in an entry. So to have 5 entries submitted for that, what I found last year is less people did 5 maxed out the million entries. They would max out the Survivors. That's a far more common thing than maxing out the millions. So if somebody might want to do 1 or 2 million entries, and then they do, 8 to 10 Survivor entries. So that's why they don't have any trouble getting to that number in the Survivor. I mean, there's groups that come in and do upwards close to 100 entries. They maybe have a group of 10 people, and they each do 10, and then they have a whole huge amount of them. So that's why it's never really an issue. But the million. Yeah, it's just it's kind of an ongoing problem. That's why, Derek has stuck with the $6 million guarantee. Hopefully he gets there this year. We'll see what we can do about helping him out and promote the contest a little bit more. But again, there's only so many ways you can dice 5 picks. I mean, you're going to do 5 picks 5 times with the same picks, or do you mix them up? Do you go opposites on some? I mean, that's kind of a strategy as well, especially once you get going, you kind of see where your entries are going. Some people might start fading their own picks and hoping that they're going to have a shot at something, whether it's the booby prize or the Circa Million.
Yeah, 100%. It'd be nice to have a shot at something. I mean, that's just kind of the difference here. It's like with Survivor, you could have 3 entries left by Christmas, and you can pick one on one game and one on the other side of the game, and still kind of guarantee you get past that week into the last week of the season, right? There's also discussions that happen where you can kind of chop it up. There could have been a chop last year. One guy decided not to, but it would have guaranteed, I think, people like 1-2 million piece. I think I can't remember the number. you can remind me that, divided by a bunch of people. There was a situation where you're going to win a lot more money too with Survivor because there's so much more money in it, obviously. With the million, it gets split up quarterly and things like that. But there's obviously guarantees and everything that Derek puts up. But there's just a much bigger pot when it comes to Survivor as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, the Circa Million does pay out at the top 100 spots. So, the odds of winning something in there might appear to be, it is better because there's more spots in there. But, it's really like that top 10 that's going to get the six figures in there. And if they do go over the 6 million, the excess money will go back into the quarters, which is nice. And those quarters will be worth more than the $300,000. They'll be, who knows what happens. It hasn't happened yet in the last couple of years. Anyways, I think initially, like the first year or two, they were able to hit the number, but it was much lower than the 6 million. The 6 million, that's 6,000 entries you have to get to avoid the overlay. So that's why it's such a big deal and why they're really going to be pushing to get people signed up for that contest this year.
Oh, 100%, man. I think that the overlay would be great if you're going because you're at a positive EV situation. The more money being paid out and put in. So that's what everybody likes, especially with sports. That's what we like about it. But having the top 100, top 50, but having the top 100 is nice that they add that. So it just gives you that much better chance. Get a couple grand. Put a grand into it. You still have shot at a couple grand. You're going to have to probably do 63 to 65% to get the top 100, close to 70% correct. Picking all these NFL games. Yeah, you're looking at, what's the average? It's a week, maybe 15. Just depends on how many bye weeks are going on. And I think there's a total of 90 picks throughout the year. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right to me.
Well, 17 weeks now, too.
But we'll kind of see what happens this year. But like I said, the Super Contest is another good option for people, especially if you get hot for shorter periods of time. We've had guys who catch fire for 3 weeks. We had the winner of the last 3-week contest last year, and many of those smaller contests last year. 2 years ago, we had a guy who actually won like six figures just winning a couple of the smaller contests within the Super Contest. So you can almost win as much money in the smaller contests if you catch fire for like a shorter period of time, like half the season, versus the whole season. So that's another thing that's interesting about that one. So, but there's a lot of good contests here in Vegas. The only way to find out more about them really is to just do your research. Go to footballcontest.com. We do have a promo for our proxy service the next couple days that expires actually on Friday night at midnight. Is save 10%. We did something for the NFL schedule release, and so if you use promo code SKED SKED at checkout, you're going to save 10% off all your proxy fees. So this is the last big discount we're going to have before signups really kick into gear in June. So take advantage of that, and you can go to proxy.footballcontest.com to check that out.
All right. Make sure you use the promo code SKED. So what other contests are in Vegas that you could proxy for and obviously get people around the country to join? And I'm guessing you do some volume discounts as well.
Well, there's a lot of smaller contests for like some of the smaller casinos, like station casinos. We don't really do anything with those. But like I said, the Golden Nugget contest is out there. I believe they're starting those signups in early July. And then we're still waiting on William Hill and Caesars to see what they're going to do if they jump back in the college football game. Because there's a lot of people who want a college football contest. I've heard that from so many people every year. And I think there's definitely a market for it. It just depends on who's willing to put it together. Because the one thing that I think a lot of the contestants don't understand is just that there's a lot of work that goes into the contest, setting the lines every week. And when you think about NFL versus college football, there's a ton more games for college football. So to have to come out with lines by Thursday, and then there's games almost every day of the week. Once you get to mid-season, you're playing games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. William Hill a couple years ago only had Saturday games on the schedule. They picked 30 Saturday games that you had to make 7 picks from. some people complained about that because it just wasn't enough of a variety. So it's a big challenge to do a college football contest. So we'll see if somebody steps up between now and say July. But we'll get the information up there as soon as we have it, and get on our email list, and we'll make sure to let you know as soon as we know something.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be great. And you guys can hear first. I love the college football contest. I didn't win it, but I had a good time doing it because it's just an extra train of thought. There's like 30, 40 games that you're really choosing from. So that'd be cool if they step up to the plate. I think once these contests keep going, there's going to be more options. And obviously having you there to be able to put this in is absolutely amazing. And what time are the entries due for these contests with your system?
Yeah, so for our proxy service, we have two different deadlines. We offer a Friday and a Saturday deadline. If you do want to play the Thursday game, there's separate deadlines that are involved for that. But we have a 1 p.m. Pacific time deadline for Friday. It's kind of like an economy proxy service for people who kind of already know their picks and they're just willing to put them in. Sometimes they know their picks as soon as the lines come out. We get like a number of people who just put their picks in and they don't even care. They've been studying those games as soon as the opening lines, the casinos come out Sunday night. And once they get the contest numbers, they're ready to submit their picks. So, we do offer that. And then we do have a 1 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, which is the latest deadline of any service out there. And so we try to give you as much time as possible to get your picks in. And and then we have a few hours to put them in, and then we'll confirm everything and let you know that you can sleep easy on Saturday and then hopefully have a good day on Sunday.
Absolutely, man. That's exactly what you want to be doing, sleeping easy. Because if you screw up and do not put your picks in, Maddie and Tony will also just make sure that you pick, and that way you kind of get that.
Yeah, we'll put random picks in for you if we have to. Yeah.
They can't make a pick, and sometimes you guys will make a pick, and sometimes it turns out right and doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, some people just forget to. We do everything we can to chase people down, let them know that we don't have their picks. But I mean, there's occasions where we aren't able to get in touch with someone, and we'll make sure to put something in for you. Sometimes they'll go 5-0, and we've actually helped people win money on the smaller contests. It was a couple years ago, I think, the Super Contest. I think I'd mentioned there's a 3-week contest and a 6-week contest, and we ended up doing really well. We hadn't heard from a client for a few weeks, and we ended up doing really well and helped to win about $30,000. So, but it happens. But we're here for you regardless.
Well, why don't you remind everyone where they can get your great information in that promo code to get into these huge contests for 2024?
Yeah, footballcontest.com is the top online destination for Las Vegas football contest information. Go there. There's a number of links on the homepage you can check out, get the information for the circuit contests, which are out now. The Super Contest is going to be launching on July 1st. So we will have all that information updated in about a month from now. And then, if you want to sign up for the proxy service, you can save 10% through Friday night. You just use promo code SKED, at checkout, and that'll save you 10% off all your proxy fees. And if you have any questions, you can always contact us, proxy@footballcontestproxy.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can and let you know any answers to any of your questions you might have. So the hardest thing with picking a proxy is finding somebody reliable and trustworthy and who's responsive. And we've been at the top of the game for like the last 15 years. So we're definitely here for you, and we hope you'll pick us this year.
That's right. Make sure you guys get in these contests. You can actually get in with Matty and Tony early before you go sign up for the contest. That's what he means. Get in the promo code SKED because you're going to be in Vegas before the start of the football season. Matty, thanks so much for coming on. We'll be talking.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Sorry for some of those audio issues I had. There was an issue with our StreamYard, but I think everything is all cleared up by now. And it's time to talk a little UFC 302, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. And let's start right away with this fight. I mean, Islam is a massive favorite here, like what, minus 600 in a lot of these spots. Geez, minus 700s out there. What's the DraftKings number? 675. Yeah, I mean, what this line's telling you is that Islam should have his way with DP. I mean, the total in this fight, under 2.5 rounds in a 5-1 fight, is minus 166. So kind of that tells you that it shouldn't last so long. But the way I look at it is this. I mean, you can't lay minus 675 in a fight. This is fighting, you know. One of these days, it's going to come back to haunt you. Dustin Poirier's a Hall of Fame type guy. You know, he's one of the greatest strikers, I think, in UFC history. I mean, the whole reason I bet Gaethje last fight against Max Holloway is, well, Dustin Poirier beat the crap out of Max Holloway. And that wasn't even too long ago. It was 2019, so yeah, I guess it was almost 5 years ago now when I watched that fight. I actually bet Max Holloway back in 2019, and DP took care of him. It bloodied him pretty bad. You know, Islam Makhachev can do both, though. He's one of the greatest wrestlers / grapplers in all of the UFC. He hasn't lost since way back in 2015, and early in his UFC career, he got knocked out, and that's really his only weakness is his chin. Now, since then, he's been dazed a few times. He struggled with Arman Sarukin, who doesn't, though, in a 3-round fight back in 2019. I thought he was a little bit dazed. God, I think it might have been against Dan Hooker. Charles popped him once when he got the belt against Charles, but that's the path for beating Islam Makhachev, and Poirier is going to throw out as many strikes as possible. Now, Poirier does have submissions, and he can submit people, but I mean, when it comes to him submitting a world-class wrestler like Islam Makhachev from Eagle Fighting, you have Khabib there, right? That's just way too much to ask for. And, you know, when Dustin fought Charles, I thought he'd knock Charles out. He dazed Charles back in 2001, but then Charles got his hooks into him and got him in the rear naked choke in round 3. DP's going to fight. He's going to try to last as long as he can. But there's definitely a path to victory if he can clock Islam Makhachev. But it just doesn't happen often. I think Islam's going to fight a smart fight. I think this is over probably in the beginning of the second round. Maybe he gets to over 2.5. I think 2.5 is a pretty good number. That's 12.5 minutes of fighting. But, I mean, let's face it, Islam is the best at 155, and I wish I could see Islam versus Khabib, right? That would be really the best fight you have out there, but unfortunately, these guys are on the same size, both Muslim, and it's just never going to happen. You know, never going to happen. So here we are. It's a massive price. I think Islam wins. I don't think he's quite ready to give up his belt in the 155 weight class. I think he's to be ready. He fought Volkanovski. You know, he hasn't even really defended his belt against a real 155-pounder. And here we go. DP sitting here because a lot of other guys kind of had to drop out. Conor McGregor, always injured, but I don't even think he's worthy of fighting. Michael Chandler had some issues. Just a situation where, hey, somebody had to step up against Islam Makhachev, and here you are. I'm not betting it. I'm just going to watch it as a fan. But this should be a pretty easy fight, in my opinion, for Islam. The next fight has Sean Strickland against Paulo Costa. Both are 6'1", 28-6 for Strickland, 14-3 for Costa. Strickland's just an absolute maniac out there. He's a stalker. He likes to wear people down. Even though he doesn't grapple, he can. He is amazing at defending grappling. 77% takedown defense, even though Costa's sitting here at 80% takedown defense. I mean, both of these guys aren't going to easily get wrestled. Now, Costa's going to want to wrestle him. He's just not going to be able to do it, you know. Significant strikes, 5.91 for Strickland and 6.2 for Costa. That's pretty good for Costa, but, I mean, it's just going to be hard for him to land one because Strickland, stand-up fighter all the time, absorbs 4.33 significant strikes per minute, and Costa absorbs 6.38. I can see Costa just getting bludgeoned this fight as it goes on. But one thing about Strickland, he just doesn't knock people out. It takes him a while to finish his fights. They usually go to decision, but this is going to be a 5-round fight. Even though it's not a title fight, it's still the co-main event, so they're making it a 5-round fight. I kind of like that personally. I think more fights should be 5 rounds in the UFC, but here we are. Costa tends to falter against bigger competition. Now, here's the thing. Strickland beats Adesanya, gets the title, and then he loses his next fight to Dricus du Plessis. Now, that split decision, I think, was wrong. I think the crowd was behind du Plessis. It wasn't that in Africa, and Strickland actually won that fight. It's just the judges screwed him over. I completely believe that. Strickland's last loss before that was Jared Cannonier in a split decision. Absolute fine situation where you could look at, hey, he fought Cannonier. Cannonier is an absolute beast. And I can't remember that fight so well. I think there was also a little bit of controversy on that one. He got knocked out the one before to Alex Pereira, the light heavyweight champion. So, that just shows you how good Strickland is here. And he just seems to keep getting better and better. Now, Costa, he tends to gas. It takes him a while, but he'll eventually gas. He's also 33 years old himself, 6 feet tall. He's going to stand up fighting. He's had situations where he's gotten to the mat, but most of the time he's a stand-up fighter. Hell, he hasn't submitted somebody since 2016. So, yeah, he's going to be on his feet, and he's going to be throwing as much as he can. But the problem is, even though he might connect on some, Strickland's just so good at sprawling and putting his chin backwards and defense and blocking shots. Paulo's not. I think Strickland's going to win this fight in the 4th or 5th round. I'm going to go with Strickland in a parlay piece, and I'll tell you who my dance partner is in a minute. Kevin Holland is the next fight. Kevin Holland versus Michael Oleksichuk. And, man, I think that Michael is just one of those fighters that just could never get into the tier 2. I think Michael, 19-7, 6 feet tall, 29 years old. He's just more of a stepping stone in this middleweight division. I think Kevin Holland's more of a placeholder, meaning you beat Kevin, you are kind of into that tier 1 territory. Kevin Holland is easily a tier 2 fighter. He lost his last 2 fights, though, to Michael Page and Jack Della Maddalena. Now, Jack Della Maddalena is an absolute beast. He's a tier 1 fighter, and that was a split decision. When he fought to Michael Page back in March, that was just such a weird fight. Michael Page is one of those super up-and-coming guys that has just such the weird fighting style and stance, and he got outlanded by Kevin Holland, but the judges and the crowd seemed to like Michael Page. Kevin had 64 landed total strikes to 59, but they say Michael Page's were significant, 41 to 29. That was just a messy fight. Kevin Holland even had more control time wrestling Michael Page. I just did not understand that decision being unanimous in any way. But anyways, Michael Page is going to be fighting an awesome fight himself here coming up in the future against Ian Gary in UFC 303. So that's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Ian Gary versus Michael Page. But anyways, getting back to this, Kevin Holland's probably going to take him. He's the better fighter. Is it worth it to lay minus 290 or minus 260, whatever it's at? Let me see what it's at right now. Minus 290 on DK. Probably a little bit too much. I mean, what I will say about Michael Oleksichuk is he did beat a few pretty good fighters here in Chidi Jaquani, Cody Brunage, not really Sam Alvey, but Shamil Gazatov. He's not that good, but he's gotten a few knockouts. And that's the way you got to beat Kevin Holland. You got to try to catch him and knock him out. So the price is probably a little bit too high on Kevin Holland for me to take. Maybe that's just kind of like one of those perfect prices that you don't want to take. There's really no advantage. I think Kevin Holland wins, but I'm not going to bet on it, and I'm not going to put him to minus 290 in a parlay either. I wrote it down as a possible parlay piece, but decide not to. Let's move down the card here to Nico Price versus Alex Morano. Alex Morano's minus 258. Nico is plus 210. Now, this is a fight where I'm going to find my second parlay piece in Alex Morano. If you parlay these boys together at minus 250, you're getting about minus 105. Morano and Sean Strickland. Now, Morano's just a tough dude. He's been in the UFC for a long time now, and I personally believe he's one of the better fighters still. I mean, you just saw him beat Court McGee in April in a unanimous decision. He did lose to Joaquin Buckley, but he beat Tim Means before that. He lost to Santiago Ponzinibbio, but he beat Matthew Semlisberger, who's a crazy beast. He beat Mickey Gall, David Zawada, Cowboy Cerrone. He just has a lot of nice little notches on his belt. And Nico Price, he's the guy that's been failing. Nico Price is 34 years old. He's lost 5 of his last 7, and there's a no contest in there against Cowboy Cerrone. Now, the only wins he had was Alex Oliveira and James Vick, some complete bums. Now, he did lose to some pretty good fighters like Phil Rowe and Vicente Luque, but Robbie Lawler getting knocked out right away in the first round by Robbie Lawler. Seriously, Nico. Price, I think, is kind of done. And I just think Morano is much more of an educated fighter. He's going to know that Nico's going to kind of go for it. He's going to be throwing a lot of punches in the beginning. And if you look at significant strikes here, Nico lands a lot, 5.46 to 4.87. But Nico gets hit a lot more, 5.6 absorbed per minute to only 4.16 for Alex Morano. Both are about the same in takedown average. Pretty close in takedown defense. I think this is going to be a stand-up fight anyway, so you don't have to worry about. But what I'm thinking about is the chin here. Nico's been knocked out 5 times. He's been submitted once, and he lost in a decision. And obviously, a lot of these were recent. While Morano, he's only been KO'd 3 times, and he's lost in 6 decisions, never been subbed. So, I think Morano at 33 years old is still better than Nico Price. Nico's probably got a little bit of height on him. Not so much. I'm going to go with Alex Morano for sure for the parlay. I think the price on it tells you that. I know Nico Price has a little bit more of a reach advantage, but these guys are about the same height. And Alex Morano's fought plenty of taller fighters in his day. So that'll be at minus 105 for this parlay for 2 stars. All right. Moving down the card a little bit, I'm going to skip the Randy Brown fight against Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, and we're going to move to an interesting fight because Jailton Almeida is back. And Jailton Almeida is fighting Alexander Romanov. And Romanov, he's kind of been a beast, 17-2, but his 2 losses are 2 of his last 3 fights. One against Marcin Tybura, which was a majority decision, and Alexander Volkov, where he got knocked out. He beat Chase Sherman, got him in a leg lock. He beat Jared Vanderera. He's just kind of a big polar bear dude. And now he's finally fighting another guy that can wrestle. He doesn't fight a ton of wrestlers in the heavyweight division. And now he gets to step up. He's never fought Blades, who's the other big wrestler. Obviously, Cormier back in the day. John Jones is just an absolute beast, but he doesn't want to fight anybody lately. But Jailton Almeida is the grappler, and he did take down his last opponent, Curtis Blades, 9 times before he got knocked out in the second round, which was kind of a bad look. It's almost like it looked like Almeida gassed. But I don't think Almeida should be this big of a favorite against more of a rounded fighter. Romanov's going to be better on his feet, and Romanov has a couple paths to victory. He does knock you out sometimes, 6 knockouts, 9 subs, and 2 decisions. It'd be really interesting to me if Romanov was able to sub Almeida within a quick fight. Now, Almeida never gets to decision, so that would be more of the path I would look for, is one of these fighters to win inside the distance. Now, the only reason he went to the decision against Derek Lewis in 5 rounds is because Derek Lewis is just that good at defense. Derek Lewis is a tier 1 heavyweight, He beat Jairzinho Rosenstruck in an easy submission. And everybody else he really fought. He's just kind of moving up the ranks here. He lost Curtis Blades, but this is going to, propel him to that tier 1 again, most likely, that the heavyweights are looking at after the loss to Curtis Blades. But man, I mean, Romanov here, price, not so bad here. I mean, it keeps getting more and more, and maybe people are just putting Almeida in parlays, but Almeida's up to minus 298, and Romanov is plus 240 now. I'm not so sure about that. If I'm going to bet this, I would bet that Romanov probably wins by TKO or submission, and you're going to get plus 350 on it. You're going to get a little bit better of a number. Romanov inside the distance. If this thing gets to decision, well, it's probably because Almeida's a little bit better of a grappler, and he's going to probably pick up some points on the ground like he was doing against Blades, like he did against Derek Lewis. But I'm not going to count Romanov off. I think he could easily finish Jailton Almeida, especially when Almeida has been knocked out before. One of those situations where you're not going to get a lot of value betting this doesn't go to decision because fighter wins inside the distance is massively juiced minus 350 and goes to decision plus 250 here. Jailton Almeida wins inside the distance minus 150 in this book. And looking at DraftKings, it's minus 135. So, that's what they kind of expect. But price-wise, I would rather bet Romanov to win by KO or possibly by submission. See if Romanov's the one to sneak in a submission, some sort of a heel hook or something like that. Now, Romanov's probably going to lose, but this could be worth a little sprinkle. I'm actually still thinking about it. But that's all we have for this card. Not the best card. There's some great fights up top, but I think the card kind of in the middle might be a little bit lacking, at least from a betting side. I'm not seeing a ton of values really sticking out for me, but definitely going to go with the parlay with Strickland and Morano here at minus 105. My friends, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to tweet us at The Oddsbreakers, email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Have a great rest of your week and go get some winners.